Okay, so another do is to make sure that you Hello everyone, thanks so much for tuning into my channel this week. So this week I actually have a good topic for you. This is former teachers out there. This is how to survive your teacher evaluation from the perspective of an administrator. So I'm going to give you a few tips. Now before I move any further, the first thing that I'm going to have you do is, if you have not already done so, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. What are you waiting for? I have great content. Subscribe now. If you like this video, please be sure to click like, and if you have not already done so, you need to bell me so that you can get updates every time I post new and wonderful content. If you would like to read the blog for this particular video, you can always check it out on my website at www.shikahenley.com. So I just want you to stay tuned so we can move into this week's topic, which is offering some do's and don'ts for surviving your teacher evaluation. Hello everyone, so welcome back. I'm trying something new here. You can see with the background. I don't have a background. I'm trying to be more relaxed. So we're just gonna sit here on my couch with my art in the background to see how that works, right? So this week's topic was actually inspired by another YouTuber. I do follow lots of YouTubers, especially if we're in the same area. And this one I believe is from the Lettered Classroom. She had it popped up when she was just talking about, evaluation week. And I said, oh my gosh, like that is something that really needs to be talked about. Because one thing that I know is, as a teacher, I was always very anxious about it. And then now that I've transitioned into an administrative role, there are so many things I think about. I'm just like, oh, you know what, had I done this, that, or the other, I wouldn't have been as anxious. And just kind of some things to just kind of understand that would have made things a lot easier for me. So I'm hoping that you can get some of these nuggets and you can take them and go with them. They may be in a weird order because I've just transitioned into the old school. I've just written it all out here. So I'm not as tech savvy with this week's vlog, but I am gonna go ahead and list everything out. And then also I want to pre-apologize for my voice because I've totally lost my voice and my mic isn't working. So I'm just gonna have to yell and turn up the volume when I edit this video. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and just move into this week's do's and don'ts. So hopefully you'll be able to take some of these nuggets with you as you move forward to your evaluations. Okay, number one, the first do familiarize yourself with your evaluation tool. Don't try to avoid the tool like it is the plague, which I think that some people do. Some people don't, or some people just don't want to focus in on it. But you really need to understand how you're being evaluated, how are you being scored, because that's going to give you an idea of things that people are looking for when they come to your classroom. So make sure that you ask your administrator for exemplars. In a lot of cases, and I can speak from the schools that I've had to interact with in the Midwest area, many schools and districts use the Charlotte Danielson as a basis for whatever they're doing. So I know one thing about the Danielson rubric is, if you go to her website, they have videos that are exemplars of teachers doing each of those domains well. So you really want to understand, how am I being evaluated? What does this look like? What are the things that are going to weigh the most? What do you mean? What should I provide as evidence to do XYZ? Because that's going to help you. That's just going to arm you so you know what to expect. Just like with our kids like rubrics. Kids like to know how they're going to be scored. And if they don't know how they're going to be scored, they're going to give you whatever it is that they think you want versus what it is that you actually need to see. So you don't want that to happen with you with your evaluation. What exactly and how am I being evaluated? What does this mean? What does an example of this look like, so that I know what I'm striving towards if I'm trying to fall into a range of proficient or distinguished. Okay, so another do is to make sure that you are clear and honest during a pre-conference. So if you have a pre-conference, the normal setup is that pre-conference, the observation, and that post-op. So as you are moving into that pre-conference, do be honest, because the real purpose of a pre-conference is to give your administrator a very clear picture about what to expect when they go into your classroom. So what exactly are you covering? What have students been doing really well on? What are some things students are struggling with? with? What are some things that you think are strengths and some things you think are weaknesses of your own? But the purpose of that pre-conference is to really just engage in dialogue about what's going on in your classroom. And so when you're clear about things during that pre-conference, that means is that your administrator goes into for the actual observation, they have a much clearer picture of what it is that they should expect or what it is that they should look for. Because one thing that I do want to say is any good evaluation, and I'm just saying this, and this is what you can take whatever you want with it. Any good evaluation, the point of it is to help you grow. It is not to be some punitive thing to give you a random rating. So I can't help you grow if I don't understand everything that's happening in your classroom. So just use that as a tool. Don't try to paint some unrealistic picture. Don't try to avoid things that you don't want anybody to notice, the things you're uncomfortable with, because those are things that kind of surface no matter what. So just be honest and just use this as an opportunity to just engage in a really good dialogue about what's happening in your classroom. Okay, so do make sure that everything is in place. And so what I mean by this is, because I know as a teacher, this was something that would frustrate me. And as an administrator, something I've noticed that is also, you can't pick up on everything. So make sure your lesson plans are where they're supposed to be. If you have a greeter, that the greeter knows what they're supposed to be doing. That if you have just normal things that are expectations, and most schools have normal things like board configurations, locations for where homework bins should be, or any of those things. Make sure all of those things are just in place and where they should be, because that makes it easier as the administrator comes into your room. Because in some instances, your admin may come in and schedule the meetings, the observation. In some instances, the admin may not schedule that observation. And so you want to make sure that everything is just ready to go, so that your administrator has a much better understanding of what's happening in the classroom. And that's one thing that I can always reiterate. Although I know what's happening in all of my teachers' classrooms, if I'm there on a specific day and maybe something has changed, or maybe because I understand a good teacher knows how to be responsive to students' needs. And you may say you're going to do ABC in your lesson plan, but you realize after evaluating how first and second period went, you can't do it for third period. You have to change some things up. So those are just things that it's easier if your admin kind of can come in and easily locate, how those types of changes are taking place. And so one thing that you want to avoid is trying to kind of stage everything that's happening in your classroom. Because one thing that I've just realized, I realize as a veteran teacher, and you'll hear a lot of veteran teachers kind of say, you're going to see what you're going to see. Because you realize that if things are in a routine, when something is not quite part of the routine or something is part of the routine. So you just want to make sure that things are set up and ready to go, but you don't want it to be, like you're in there in a full-on suit and you never wear a suit to work. So it's just like, okay, just be yourself, but just be prepared. Okay, so number four, I think this really starts to fall into how you control your professional fate and you control your professional growth and learning. Make sure that you set goals with your administrator about where you want to be in your classroom, things that you want to, how you want to grow, so that your administrator already has that dialogue with you and knows, like, okay, I know so-and-so is really working on this particular domain and really trying to make sure that, planning is really tight so that instructional delivery can be really tight. Those kinds of conversations are going to help your administrator give you a much more robust evaluation. So, set those goals for yourself. Have those kinds of conversations so that your administrator knows, like, okay, I know that Ms. X has been working on domain 2, really working on domain 2 throughout the year. So I know when I come in, I'm going to look at everything else, but I know that domain 2 is something I need to really focus on to see how Ms. X has grown in that particular area. And so the big don't in this one is don't have a fixed mindset. You can't approach it like, hey, everything's great, I'm good. You really need to move into more of okay, I'm looking at this rubric and I really want to see how can I push myself in this area or that area. And how can we engage in a dialogue about how I can set those goals for myself. Because like I said, if those conversations are being had, your administrator, again, has a better idea of what to look for. And you have a better idea of what your administrator is going to come in and look for in your classroom and what kind of feedback that person is going to deliver, because you've been engaging in those conversations throughout the school year. Okay, another thing, do invite your admin in for pop-ins. And this is something that people really avoid. People are afraid of pop-ins. But if this is an informal pop-in and I just want you to come in and check, you know what, hey, I am going to do a do now. I really want you to focus on how I do a do now. I've noticed that it's really taken me double the time to get them done. I'm not quite sure why. You know, can you come in and just give me some feedback and help me troubleshoot around that particular thing? Because again, it goes back to the last tip that I gave you. The more of a dialogue that you're having with your administrator about your classroom and your classroom practices, the better off you're going to be, because your administrator is going to, number one, have a much better idea of the goals that you've set for yourself and will be able to see how you've been progressing, how you've been growing. So that don't try to avoid the pop-ins. Don't try to say, oh, I know this week is going to be, so maybe I'll do this week, or I'll show a movie about this. Don't avoid it, because those pop-ins are really, really important, because they help you build into that final observation. You won't be as nervous if you had your admin come in once a week or twice a month or whatever it is, and when they're coming in to sit for a formal 50 minutes, because you've seen that person in and you know what they look for and how they deliver feedback. And again, you've created that kind of relationship with your administrator so that you're going to be a bit more comfortable with just asking for feedback and then engaging in that kind of conversation. Okay, so another thing is, do visit your colleagues' classrooms. And I know that there are plenty of articles that have been written about how the don't is closing yourself off. Don't close yourself off. And lots of teachers, they do kind of want to teach in that box, but then there are lots of teachers who don't. If you have a colleague who is knocking something out of the park, go in there and check it out. Have a conversation. How'd you get that done? How's that working? Hey, would you mind coming into my classroom to look at how I do X, Y, Z? Because again, the point of evaluations, it's growth, and we shouldn't be uncomfortable with offering feedback to one another or asking for feedback, because how exactly can you grow? And as I think about my journey with grad school, I've just hit that point. I'm resolved, where I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to turn in. I'm going to have to get some feedback on it anyway and resubmit it, because that's how you grow. No one is perfect the first time around. So if you know you have a colleague who does Domain 3 really well, you know what? I need to go see that person and talk about how they're doing Domain 3. Or if you know you have a colleague, like I said, they have really great classroom management, they have really great execution of gradual release, or whatever it is that they're doing, go and watch them do it and engage in conversation with them about that, so that you can set goals for yourself, so that those are things you can tighten up for yourself. And the last thing, which is kind of tied in, is do be consistent. Don't, be reactive, which I know is another thing that happens. Like, I know I sat down, I would look at rubrics, I would say, oh my gosh, I haven't done 4C. I'm just throwing out random domains. Oh, how can I do 4C? Just be consistent and think about those things. Keep those things going. So it's like, as I engage in professional conversation with my team, I'm constantly revisiting, like, this is our evaluation tool. These are things that we look for. Have you been looking at this? You might want to check this out. Have you been collecting evidence for this? Do those things consistently, because if you're doing all those things consistently, then it won't, you won't have to be responsive. You won't have to say, oh my gosh, I got to get these lesson plans really done and really done well on Sunday night before, because I'm being evaluated this week. You know what? If you have been consistent, like I've consistently just been following this routine, then you won't be nervous. You won't be like, okay, I have to do the specific thing and make sure the specific thing is in my lesson plan and happening. That's how you get off your square. You don't want to be there. You want to be completely ready and completely comfortable with your evaluation of what's going to happen. Okay, everyone. So I am going to quickly sum up. I hope that you found this helpful. I really do. I hope that, some of these will definitely be nuggets, like things that you might want to take into next school year and start your school year off and be consistent with. And then some of these things may be things you can get done before your final evals happen at the end of the year. And people's years are ending at different times. In the Midwest here in Chicago, school will not be ending until the very end of June. So, we got some time, people. So I'm just going to go ahead and recap. And again, I'm going to look down because I have handwritten everything because it's the Stone Age. So just hitting off our do's. So do review your evaluation tool. If you haven't done that yet, you need to do it. Be super comfortable with how you're going to be evaluated. Do make sure that you are clear and honest in your pre-conference, so that your administrator has a clear idea of what to look for and what your expectations are. Do make sure that everything is in place. So if lesson plans are where they need to be, greeters are ready to go, if you have board configurations, everything is ready to go. Make sure those things are ready to go so your administrator doesn't have to fumble looking for anything. Do set goals for yourself and discuss those with your admin, because that also is going to help the both of you engage in this conversation about growth and goal setting. So you do want to make sure you're saying, you know what, I really want to do well at XYZ. Let's talk about what that looks like for me. Do invite your admin in for informal visits. There is no rule that says you cannot ask your administrator to come pop into your third period for 15 minutes to go look at a thing. So do that. Reach out and start that kind of, start that dialogue and create that relationship, so that when the final evaluations come, you're accustomed to that person being there, they're accustomed to being in your classroom, and they have an idea of what you're looking for and to grow, and you have an idea of what they're looking for when they evaluate. Do visit colleagues' classrooms. If you aren't doing that, visit your colleagues' classrooms, because I'm telling you, there are some gold mines. One of the things that I can always say about any staff I've ever worked with, be it as a teacher or as an administrator, there's always each person on staff has a thing they are amazing at. And you have to really tap into your talent, your resources that are already there in your staff. And the final one is, do be consistent. So just do the same, do a little bit every day. Don't wait till the very end. Make sure you're consistent with things like lesson planning. You're consistent with your routines in classroom. Just be really consistent. Because if you're going to be consistent, then it's not as much to worry about when someone's coming in for that final eval. So again, thanks so much for tuning into this video. I really hope that you found this video helpful. Hope you found some nuggets in it. And I know that evaluations can be stressful. I was in the classroom for a long time, and even though I'm not in the classroom, I still, I am beholden to someone too. I get evaluations. I have rubrics too. So I just hope you can take some nuggets with you, and that this can kind of ease some of the stress that comes with being evaluated. If you like this video, please be sure to click like. And if you haven't done so, you still can subscribe. I have a little link and a little icon here. Just click that icon on the video. And if you have not already done so, bell me so that you can get updates whenever I post new content. And if you would like to check out the blog for this particular video, you can always find it on my website at www.shikahandling.com. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you next time.